We haven't had a town hall strategic plan meeting since when? Anybody remember? December, you're right. December 2016. Where did the time go? Right? So how many people have joined us since December 2016? Stand up for a minute. Oh, I see you. I know you're in the room. Okay. Put a round of applause. So prior to that, we had engaged in what I would call professional development. And that was to work with this group, so administrators ranking usually 15 and above from all of the areas. So administrative services, student services, academic. So when was the last time we did one of those? Anybody remember? No, it was actually March of 2016. We had done our first one in fall of 2015. We did a follow-up in spring of 2016. And then we sort of stopped. Anybody guess why? MDC Connect, that's right. MDC Connect has kind of taken over our lives for a year. So we're now coming off, we're shaking off the MDC Connect coma. And we're refocusing. So I had planned this opportunity to speak with all of you before the restructuring announcement. So I figure I should address that first. But even before we get to the restructuring announcement, because they're related, I want to talk about budgets. What's happening with budgets right now? What's happening right now? What's happening? What did you hear? What did they say? Sweep. Oh, okay. Okay, let me clarify. Yeah, I was going to say, if you said sweep, no, you're wrong tense, swept. But let me clarify. Not your department budget. What's happening in the state of Florida? What's happening right now? Special session. So the budget went to the governor. What happened when it went to the governor? What happened? So he went through and he vetoed a number of items, which means now the budget is not brought to closure, which is why they called a special session. Did he veto the cuts to the Florida Community College system? No. So if the budget proceeds, that cut's coming to the Florida Community College system. What else is going to impact the Florida Community College system that's related to the budget right now? Come on, some of you are in my advocacy group. There is the change to create a different governance system. But that wouldn't really impact us, or shouldn't impact us, budget-wise. They're proposing a change to the performance-based funding. Do we meet all the metrics of the performance-based funding now? No. What happens if you don't meet the performance-based metrics? You don't get money. What do? Do they just not give you extra money? No, they take from your base. So as the budget stands right now, if the Florida Community College cuts go through, if the wording stays the same for the performance-based metrics funding, based on our past performance, we're looking at a $14 million cut. Just us, not the college system. Miami-Dade College, $14 million. Okay, let's now shift gears to restructuring. Is the restructuring the cost savings? No, because even if you eliminate presidents, you don't save $14 million. That is not the catalyst. Is it related? Yes, but it's related at this level. It is very important that all resources be used to maximize our core mission. We need to be lean, mean, fighting machine because education is changing faster than ever before. Many of you have been in education for decades. The acceleration of change is just amazing. And we are, this campus, 50 years old. North is a little older. Everyone else is a little bit younger, but not by much. So why do I bring that up? Because part of becoming 50, 55 is you kind of get mature, or you hope that you get mature. Not always. Sometimes you have a second life crisis, you buy a Corvette. I was not being offensive to anyone who drives a Corvette, because I don't know what you drive. So it's about maturing. But what you have to guard against when you mature is that you don't make your world smaller and you become less agile, less adaptive to change. Because what this institution needs to do is be at the forefront of change, at the forefront of agility and adaptability, because that will keep us relevant so that we won't only be here in 2017, we will be here a very, very different place, but we will be here in 2067 serving our community. Because our community still needs us. So we need to be relevant. So the restructuring, you may have some questions. So do I. We're only 5 days into it. Dr. Padron, Dr. Radicio, and the campus presidents will be meeting next week to start talking about some of it. So for you who don't follow your emails, what they did was there's a pairing of a large campus with a small campus. So Kendall, sister is now West, Wolfson, Hialeah, North, Inter-American, and Homestead has general education college-wide. You're like, well, what does that mean? Well, we're not quite sure. But part of that creation of the structure was about 6 months ago, you heard about the restructuring of schools. That schools, some of them kind of merged, so we have engineering, technology, and design. Now, on the Kendall campus, that really means engineering, technology, and architecture and interior design, because that's the large part of design that's here. But if you go over to North Campus, it's more like engineering, technology, and design being film, TV, broadcasting, because that's what's big there. So even the School of Engineering, Technology, and Design will be a little unique on whatever campus it is offering programming. So these schools have some kind of changed, some dance partners, and they now will all report through the Vice Provost of Schools. So they don't report through campuses anymore. And you think, well, why? This is, again, to make sure that everybody is rowing in the same direction. There is one college. Sometimes we forget that. Healthy competition is that, healthy competition, but there is one college. And so this helps unify and create, hopefully, a strategic level that starts to look at when things get offered, how they get offered, where they get offered, so that we are not necessarily cannibalizing. If you saw the enrollment for summer, we were down 4.3%. The only other campus down was Hialeah. Hialeah was down, I think, about 1.5. But when Hialeah is down 1.5, that's like one extra course at Kendall. So all the other campuses were up. But Kendall is the largest campus, so when Kendall is down, it draws the whole system down. Now, we ended up being just edged up neutral college-wide, about 0.7%, 0.8% for summer. We were down in spring. We were down in fall. Now, there was this kind of shifting back and forth because ultimately, if Kendall is down but everyone else is up, we still have to look into that. But we're looking at where does the college end up? Because if we just shift them between Homestead, Inter-American, Hialeah to North, then we're just playing, a board game. The college needs to be strategic in what it's offering and how it's serving. So we had the change in schools. We've not completely seen that manifest itself because it came at the same time we were still doing the implementation of MDC Connect. So budgets couldn't be changed over, reporting lines couldn't be changed over. There were structural issues that wouldn't allow that concept to manifest. But accordingly, we're told, July 1, they will move the reporting lines, they will move the budgets. So that structural piece, the Vice Provost of Schools is coming in next week, yes. So that structure will be in place, so the schools will start to be able to function in that way. So I brought that up because that takes care of the schools, but the other chunk of curriculum is general education. So that's when you take your 2 social science courses, not because you're going to be a psychology major, but because you're an engineering major and they're forcing you to take social science. Or you're an English major and they force you to take math. So those core subjects that make up our AA degree, those 36 credits, have never been championed or holistically brought together under one person or one unit. And so you have math making strides this way, English going in that direction, humanities going in that direction. If you've ever sat in, and some of you have, on a general education day with the faculty, it's a territorial fight, going, we're kicking business calculus out of math. And what do you mean you're kicking them out? Of the general education box of math, you're kicking out business calculus. Yeah, because it's taught by business faculty, so we don't want them to be taking over our students. I'm like, okay, this is about the content of the courses and what's in the best interest of students, not faculty load, not what box it sits in, because whether it's business calculus or calculus, the root of it is math. So, but we've not necessarily seen general education as being pieces that should play together. So this should be a good thing, and this goes to, again, the college being agile, adaptable, trying to get ready for more integration. So more and more we're told students need to be generalists. Students need to have transferable skills because they're going to change occupations by choice 8, 10 times. You know, they're not going to come into a job and retire 42 years later. That isn't their future. So how do we make them interdisciplinary when SACs and other regulations require this sort of narrow, well, you have to have this credential to teach this, and this can only be this, and then you have to come over and take this box. So part of being a pioneer is holding that vision of what we need to, where we need to be going, and pushing those limits back and saying to accrediting agencies, the state, okay, we understand what you want. You want a minimum of 50% of our full-time students, or first-time in college full-time students, to graduate on time. Well, help us with some of the things that are the barriers to that. We don't disagree. In fact, I'd like to see 100% of first-time in college full-time students finishing on time. I'm sure their parents, if their parents are paying, would like to see their students finish on time. But we need to not be enemies. We need to have the common goal and look at what we need to do to make that possible. So yes, we are changing. Change frightens people. But I guess we have to lead by example, because how do we turn out agile students, adaptable, resilient students, if we ourselves don't exercise those muscles? And you are the leadership of this campus. So you need to find that in yourselves, because you need to role model it to your department or to your unit. Because if you look shaken, if you engage in speculation and gossip, what are you role modeling? That they should be concerned, that there's anxiety. I have often said, panic is not a useful thing, not even in a fire, because then you just trample on everyone. So being informed, taking ownership and say, what within my world can I do to push this forward? How do I interact with my staff? How do I interact with students? What am I role modeling? We're not saying go change the world, go find $14 million. But if you win the lottery and you want to donate $14 million, I'll hook you up with someone. You can be the change, and we are about change making, yourself. It is how you choose to make sure that you're informed and to make sure that you are exercising your leadership muscles and working with whoever is in your circle. And that circle will influence the next circle and the next circle. Okay, now, what will this mean that your sister now is West Campus? I don't know. I've been spending my time back and forth. It's almost this ratio, 1 to 10. So there are about 47 full-time employees there and about 520 here. So everything is a ratio, 1 chair, 12 full-time faculty. But they're coming up for full SACS accreditation in January 23rd. I've got it red circled on my calendar. Because that's going to become our new priority, because there are a lot of priorities over there, but none of them are as important as getting full standing accreditation as a campus from SACS. So what will that mean to any of you in this room? It might not mean anything. It might mean that this is going to be a great opportunity to find a counterpart at another campus who has experienced Miami-Dade in a different way. You know the old story, you reach out and you're touching the elephant, and the elephant is different whether you're touching the front leg or if you're touching the tail or if you're touching the stomach. So they've experienced Miami-Dade College in a different way. So I think that that's a great opportunity for us to learn from each other best practices. And in some cases where we have had 50 years and we have layers within our units, they have no layers. But in the future, they will. But if they've never experienced that, it's hard to move towards something you've never known. So with my direct reports, I've already asked them to reach out to their counterparts. So if you have a counterpart at West, and you would have probably interacted with them in various structural meetings, reach out one more time with a friendly, hand. If there are specific things that we need your expertise on, we're going to be calling on you, because I now think of this as, brother's keeper. We have a shared responsibility to help them be successful, to grow them, because now we're at the largest campus, second oldest, but the largest campus, and now we're at the smallest but fastest growing. I'm like, But both are such great opportunities to really push this agenda of change and agility, because we're going through changes for a different reason, and they're going through changes but for a different reason. So I love the symmetry, but if you know anything about me, even if there isn't symmetry, I create it. So what do I want to get accomplished with this meeting, now that we've gotten the elephant out of the room, the budget, the restructuring? Yes, there are questions. No, we don't have answers, but we will. Goals for today. I want us to do an update on our strategic plan 1.0. That was the one that was created where there were 37 plans put forward. Some of those plans have been moving forward nicely, and Dr. Rosa will talk to you about that. Then we moved into Strat Plan 2.0. I want to give you an update of what that is, and that's starting off pretty good. And we have a willing volunteer who's even going to talk about her experience thus far with it. I want to give you an update about the aspirational plans, also sometimes called the campus plan. So the aspirational plans, if you submitted one, you were one of 67 entities that submitted aspirational plans, and we've made some progress on those. And then I want to be able to answer questions that you may have. And if I don't have answers, I'll jot them down and I'll seek to find answers for them. So let's get started with goal number 1. Dr. Rosa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Manny Rosa. I work at the Kendall campus, assistant to the campus president, part-time. For those of you who are my LinkedIn friends, I did add West Campus because she does West too, so I figured I should add that too. So my resume looks a little better, but only you know the truth. So we did have, 2 years ago, we came together and we were asking people to be part of our strategic plan. And 37 people, 37 departments, 37 entities came forward and said, yes, we want to contribute to the strategic plan. Somewhere along the line, there have been some personnel changes, some tweaks, so we do have a fewer plans than before. However, this is the first year, to my recollection, that we were asked to report on the progress of our plans. So many of you have already given me updates, but I'll be reaching out to you again for more specifics on our updates. Some of the plans have had challenges with MDC Connect because the information just wasn't there. But we have had some success and some progress. I will take recruitment, for example. Their goal was they were getting high school students to come visit the campus, and they wanted them to actually apply while they were here on field trips. And they actually have 37% of those who visit the campus have applied to be at the campus. So round of applause to recruitment. We also have in academic affairs, they want to create an adjunct faculty more support system and a manual. This is a 3-year process, 3 to 5 year process. But already in the first year, they've created the white paper and have jotted down some ideas and are now going to go ready for implementation. So that's progress. And then this one, I tried to memorize without looking at the notes, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. But I'm going to try. So in world languages, there is this EAP. There are 3 levels, 6, and supposedly students would take courses, but if they were a day student, their second course or their second level or something was at night. So it just wasn't a seamless process, and we wanted students to go through each stage seamlessly. Yeah? So, but there was an issue with MDC Connect, correct? So we went in the system, and whoever the chairperson is in that entire department, Laura LeBeau, has worked the master schedules and has coordinated schedules, faculty teaching, to make progress so that students can seamlessly go through the different levels. And so I think the schedules, for some of the schedules have been done, but spring 2018 will be when you expect it all to be complete. How was that? So yeah, so those are the things. Some of you had personnel changes. I know that Alex has now stepped into her role when Tina retired. So she has met with her people, has revamped, revised, and is also getting the data that we need. So that's where we are in our progress. I will be emailing you to get more specific numbers. We will have a website that you will have access to that we will debut, and the website will have opportunities for people to leave comments, so there'll also be that as well. So just look out for my emails, and we're going strong with our strategic plan, and what better role model than Dr. Moore Garcia to increase enrollment? She just acquired another campus. I mean, what better role model for strategic planning than her? Thank you.
Actually, in terms of enrollment, that was a question I was asked. It was like, so can we, like, when it's convenient, add the numbers and average? Maybe that would increase our productivity. So the important thing with the Strategic Plan 1.0 is that it's continuing. What I often hear from people is, okay, we start something, it's the flavor of the month, and then we move on to something else. Okay, strategic planning really never goes away. When it doesn't work well, it ends up in a binder on someone's shelf, or in 2017 it might end up on a flash drive. We're trying to make it a living process. And so where the plans imagined that they would continue for multiple years, they are continuing. And we wanted to make sure that we have events like this, and we are working on a more interactive website where comments can be left, so that people would be recognized that their work didn't just disappear. And it's like, oh yeah, we started that, but now we're gone on to something else. But for those of you who are relatively new with the college, let me just also step back for a moment. What the college did for its 2015-2020 strategic plan was to decide to have 3 overreaching goals: student success and access, educational quality, and institutional agility. Okay. Actually, I think in some ways the simplicity of that, because I'm a minimalist, if you've gone to my office, no paintings, well, 2 I borrowed, that is what we should be doing. We should be always thinking What are we doing to enhance student access and success? What can we do to enhance our product, which is education? And it's not just courses and curriculum. Education is the experience of education. And then what can we do to be agile? As I said, agile because it's important to role model to our students, and agile because it's what will cause us to survive in what is a shrinking marketplace in education. Okay, so we have those 3 overreaching goals. And then the district actually said, we're going to work on certain things. And so one of the things that they picked was change making, and they put it under student access and success. And we're like, okay, but change making can be broader than what we do for students. And in fact, and I'm looking at Cookie, and I've had long conversations with Cookie and Fraser, who are our impact champions, thank you, is that it's ironic to think that we would embrace change making by just asking our students to change and not looking inside and saying, what does change making really mean in terms of our processes, our structures, things like CASC, grade appeals, all of the things that are traditional to academics. Can you really get fundamental change if you just make it a module in a course? No. That's a really shallow version of change making. So with that in mind, when we as a college embrace change making and these 3 strategic planning goals, my mind started to think, okay, so what can the Kendall campus do? Because in some ways, being the largest campus is an awesome responsibility. It's a great honor because you have resources that not every campus has. But it also dispels myths, because if you can do it at Kendall, you can do it anywhere. You know, not always true. I say, you could do something at West that's just not doable at Kendall. One is, they've got this great Peruvian pipe music. Every time I walk through the halls, I feel kind of Zen-like. And I'm thinking, could we do that? And I'm thinking, no, because we don't even have a speaker system connected to all of the buildings. But this ability to pioneer and role model for the college, and even for the nation, because that's one of the great things about working at Miami-Dade. And I always have said this, as administrators at Miami-Dade, when or if you choose to leave here, your resume does look really good, because after Miami-Dade, you can run a small country. Because we're a small city. In some states, we're a large city. So when we try something and we're successful, because of who we are, because of the students that we work with, it does become a potential model to change education throughout the nation. And I think that that's really awesome to have that opportunity. So we're thinking, okay, so what do we do that really embraces change making and really learns lessons from Strategic Plan 1.0? And so some of you heard this at the December town hall meeting. What we heard from it is people like to work in teams. They liked working across department units and meeting other people that they didn't really have a reason to interact with before. They liked being able to accomplish things. What they didn't have was time. They all admitted that only when we asked for an update did they scramble to make sure that they had done something so that they could put it in the report. And I'm like, oh, just like school. It's like, oh, the paper's due tomorrow. So they didn't have time. 37 was too many. We lost track of some of them. People couldn't recite what the 37 were. It was just too long a list. So that's how we came up with the idea of doing the Strat Plan Challenge. So you all saw an email going out saying we want to have this new process. We're going to embrace change making. We're going to mix this up. Yes, we have to do strategic plan. Yes, district requires us to report out. But that's the only 2 limitations. We can do it how we want. So we embraced a new way. And part of it was, what does this college have as resources? Well, it has the Idea Center. And the Idea Center, if you haven't been there, is just a really fabulous place. You just want to drool over the space and the furniture, at least I do. And they've done great things. But all of their things have been peripheral to the rest of the college. Rather than figuring out how to do the short-term training, which was CE in nature, they didn't even go through CE sometimes. They just created their own world. They didn't deal with CASC or faculty curriculum because it was like, that's kind of hard. But to get true transformation in the institution, you have to take the good things that are on the edges and bring them into the mothership to really change the mothership, because that's where you really get the opportunity to reach 165,000 students. So as part of the Idea Center, they have instructor coaches that presented a curriculum called the Lean Startup. If you tried to go take this curriculum at a private entity, it costs you about $3,000. And it's basically, it's strategic thinking, it's design thinking, it's a business model for people who want to do startups. But it's a way of thinking about things, fundamentally. It's a way of thinking about things. And so I asked, and they agreed, that rather than coaching student teams, which they still do, is that they would coach teams from the Kendall campus on learning this curriculum so that we could pick some ideas and follow them through to see what results we would get. Now, the ideas had to fall in one of the 3 strategic plan goals. It had to be something that would impact student success and access, or educational quality, or institutional agility. We originally had 7 teams come forward. 5 started, 4 continuing. You think, well, that's kind of a loss already. No, because 1, it was a brand new thing. So when the original teams joined, we then reached back out and said, do you understand what joining means? It means you have to go to class every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. They were working on the schedule. There's going to be homework to do in between the meetings so that you work on your ideas. Now, we're going to do these classes during your regular work time, though as administrators, you know we really don't have any regular work hours, so that you can carve out some time to work with other like-minded people who want to change something. So the 7 went to 5. The 5 came to the launch. 2.5 hours. Really, I was so amazed at the energy. I kept popping in and out of the room. It was wonderful. We have a faculty team. We have a team that is a faculty member and 2 students. Now that I hadn't even expected that we would actually yield a faculty student team who have signed up and are going to be with this through December. We have teams that are made up of staff, all different reasons. Well, then you got your book, you got your homework, and people went, wow, this is like serious stuff. Well, when you learn something, remember when you were in school, some of you are still in school, you have to put some time to it. So we have 4 teams that are continuing. The second class meeting is today. And what I said to them was, I want you also to co-create this with me. So you are experiencing it, and you are also co-creating the version of this that will start in January of 2018. Because if this goes well, and I expect that pieces will go really well, some things will not go well, and we will do lessons learned, and we will go into the next version next year. Because in my mind, we have 3 more years of the college strategic plan. If there are 3 sets of teams that go through this design thinking, then I have anywhere from 15 to 45 people who will now be out there with a new way of thinking. And that new way of thinking can be applied to any challenge that comes into your environment. And so I believe we're laying down a foundation that pushes us to be more agile, to be more adaptable, because now we have a new set of tools to deal with challenges. So I have a brave volunteer, Jen Cross, who is a member of one of the teams, and I wanted her to just speak to you a little bit about the experience. Remember, they've only met once, they've had their first homework assignment, and now they'll meet for their second time today. Jen?
Hi, everybody. Actually, this has been really exciting for us. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Step back, okay. what I've found is that this is like taking a business model of creating a business and putting on top of academics so that we can see how those two systems can function together. And it's been, even just in one meeting and with the follow-up homeworks, an incredible experience, because it is giving me a new box of tools and it's giving me a new perspective. And I found that it's affecting me to the extent that it's changing the way I deal with my staff already. It's changing the way that I'm approaching students and different opportunities. And it's not just change for change's sake. It's not the flavor of the month. What I'm seeing is that we take an idea and we have the opportunity to really develop it, and to develop it collaboratively. So it's not just in my department or with a few people that I'm working with. It's how can we involve the other pieces of our college? How can we reach out to the community and make it more collaborative in that way? And the particular challenge that we're working on, we will be working with the Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And so it becomes more far-reaching. But I found that these new tools that I'm developing give me an opportunity to look at, okay, here's an idea. We want to develop this. Why are we developing it in the way that we are? Why are we using the pieces that we're using? And if it's not working, we stop, we back up, we pivot, we look at it again, and we restart. And I think sometimes in our process, that's something we miss. We get an idea, we go like gangbusters, we try to develop it and do the very best we can with it, but we don't always get the opportunity to reevaluate and then switch directions and make it work better. So I really would encourage you to take advantage of the next time the challenge comes up. If you have an idea that's just been lurking around in the back of your mind, go for it. There's really quality training that's going on here, and it truly is a different perspective. And I'm finding myself thinking about students as customers. I'm thinking, what value can I bring to them? You know, how am I meeting their needs in a different kind of way than we're accustomed to thinking? So I would challenge you guys to develop your ideas and go for it. It's a really exciting opportunity, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it.
And to give you just a little bit idea of the 4 teams, so the faculty student team, this is a faculty member in music and 2 students who are the leadership of the student club Opus 1, which is a music club. And so they had already been involved in going out to middle schools and trying to enhance a little bit the students' skills in music and demonstrate their own skills in music to these students, but also to just generally encourage them to go to post-secondary education. And so one of the exercises they did in the first meeting was the instructors, Gustavo and George, said, okay, turn to a partner and ask that partner 5 times, why are you doing this? And I'm like, okay. So my partner was the vice president of the Opus Club. And I said, so why are you doing this? Oh, because we think it'll be good, we'll get more students to come to the college. But why are you doing this? Why are you doing it in middle school? And I thought, okay, she's struggling. So eventually what it came to was that what really motivated these students was that they all could point to a time when they were around 13, 14 in middle school where someone, a teacher, a counselor, a family member, had recognized some musical talent that they had. And they had not really seen themselves as college students. But because of the interest in music, they were motivated in their high school studies, and they eventually came to college. So on one level, they thought what we wanted to hear was that they were going to bring us more students for the music department, which Jim would go, yes, bring more students to the music department. But beyond that, what they were really getting at was there are students who may not yet feel that they are college-bound students, and that if somebody doesn't reach out to them in a way that they can relate to, they're going to be lost and they're not going to come to college. And I thought, how amazing these individuals will be that they have that insight at 19 years old. And that commitment to our community to reach back to 13-year-olds when they themselves haven't yet even finished their college degrees. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm so glad that they're part of this, because as Jen said, they will get another set of tools. And I've already in my mind started thinking for Challenge 2.0, if we get students, how can we capture this as prior learning experience? Because this should be awarded credit. Isn't this what we're trying to get out of our education? Students who take leadership, students who have empathy, students who initiate, not because they're told to, not because they're going to get a grade for it, they do it because they have a commitment to their community. I want to celebrate that somehow by giving them credit, or certificate in leadership. So she then turned around and said, well, why are you here? I'm thinking, And the first 2 times it was easy to answer, and the 3rd time it got tougher, and the 4th time it got tougher, and the 5th time I'm like, I want this to end. But it really made you dig. In one exercise, as Jen said, it really made you think, okay, what really is the core of why I'm doing this? And I finally came to the fact that the reason I was sitting in the room was not because I was participating in a team. I was sitting in the room because I viewed it as important to show to the people who had shown up that they had my commitment and support, that they were coming into something that they didn't have to come into, extra work, because their work wasn't going to disappear when they went back to their office, that they were willing to try something that might be messy, and I wanted to be in the room to say, I recognize that you're pioneers and that you're doing this, and I want you to know that you have my support. So I think that that's an example that as a campus, we are trying to embrace change making, not just as an activity, but as a real mindset. And it's something that I think we need to continue. So that brings us to aspirational plans. So I have been talking now I've been here 2 years. I couldn't believe it. I actually got past my anniversary in May and went, wait a minute, it was my anniversary yesterday, and no one sent me a present. I'm joking. So for about 18 months, I've been talking about aspirational plans, and I call them aspirational plans for 2035. And many of you experienced this in a sort of concrete way, where we started a process of actually formally asking for aspirational plans for the money before it was swept. That's why we were sweeping it. And so we got 67 plans. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And then some people said, well, I didn't submit a plan. Does that mean I'm bad? I'm like, well, actually, we don't keep a naughty list. But what it made me think was, what do I need to do as a leader to help people be in a space mentally to be talking to their students, their faculty, their staff, to develop an aspirational plan? It's not an obligation, but it is something that helps you be part of the conversation. So the aspirational plan is also sometimes called the campus plan, because it has a physical dimension, how we change our campus. It has a pedagogical dimension. It has an attitudinal dimension. It has an equipment dimension. So what we asked for in the aspirational plans was just the equipment dimension, because it was about purchasing. And so part of the purchasing was also a symbolic change, where we said, if you're thinking about technology, make sure you've checked in with Russell. If you're going to change physical space, check in with Gwen, because you shouldn't be doing this in isolation. You should be doing it with the resources that the campus has. We also said that there wasn't a point system, but higher priority went to where there were plans, where there was already collaboration across units. Because if you have limited funds, if you can buy something that makes 5 people happy, that's better than buying something that only makes 1 person happy. So what I found out about the aspirational plans is we still had people who aspired to what I call basic needs. That is, I want a chair that's safe. I want a desk that isn't propped up with a brick. And I'm like, okay, that's not really my aspiration for 2035. I'm hoping we'll be past that. So at the same time, and we're almost ready to go public, we went and with the great work from Dr. Stokes' area, Gwen, really heavy lifting, was to start to create a database of everything that needed to be fixed or done. If something was broken, if something needed to be painted, to make a list of it. Well, why? For 2 reasons: to see how big it was, to make sure that somebody was addressing it, because some things we have to partner with facilities or maintenance. They're not things that can be done with campus services. So we were trying to make sure we knew who was addressing it. One, to eventually make it visible so that if you walked beside something that was broken, you wouldn't be numb to it. You would own the fact that you should go look up in the database whether it had been reported. Because I walk by things and I do the same thing. I think, well, somebody must have noticed that. I can't be the first person to notice that. And then the next week when I still see it, I'm going, okay. So then I go, did this get reported? Sometimes it has, and we're still working on a better feedback loop so that when things are not being taken care of, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that there's better communication why it's not being fixed. But sometimes they weren't reported. I'm thinking, I know I'm not the only one who's seen this. But there's this, I call it sleepwalking. And some of the people, I'm looking at Diane, they know that I have this weird sense of humor. So I'll walk by things, and I'll wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then I'll go, okay, I can't stand it anymore. The sign telling the Homestead grads where to line up needs to be moved because graduation has been over for 3 weeks. And I'm thinking, how many hundreds of people have walked by that? And I'm looking at many of you because many of you would have followed that pathway. They know. I walk around the buildings, and there's a couple right now, so those of you who are over buildings, go check your buildings, because there are register for spring flyers up on the doors. It's not spring, people. It needs to be the fall flyer. So we need to get out of that sleepwalking. So with the aspirational plans, it'll be public. Well, some of it you'll see over the summer. Some of your areas you specifically know what we were able to buy. But at convocation, we'll be able to share with everyone on the campus sort of before and after shots of areas, things that we were able to buy. And some of what we did was we kind of partitioned the money. Some of it went to infrastructure. So making sure that we had the server capacity that we need. So that's not sexy except to Russell. And you might never see it, but you would know it when we'd reached and maxed out our capacity. And now that won't happen. So some things you won't see, some things you will. Some things went to physical space. So we're redoing student life. Student life should not look like, yeah, Lauren's going, woo, woo, woo. We won't be able to elevate the ceilings, and I'm still in conversation with Dr. Stokes whether we can cut a window. But beyond the physical realities of the building, it will look much better by fall. Because if you spend time in there, it's dark, it's brooding. It is the opposite of the word student life. We're doing a revamp, and she's not in the room, Lotus is not in the room because she would go, woo-hoo. We're doing a revamp of social sciences faculty areas because that hadn't been touched since 1972. And I'm convinced that if we move those cubicles, we'll find a few love notes from 1972 because it's not been touched. And we're tearing out the carpet because I'm convinced that's part of the smell. Gotta get rid of the carpet. No carpet should be that old. So we're doing things with physical resources, the spaces, with furniture. We're creating a maker's space. And this is about this idea of change making and engaging students. So we're creating a maker space. It's kind of, the equipment is divided between building N and M, and some far off version of the future, N and M are linked as buildings in my mind. But the maker space will have the start of equipment that allows faculty and students to really engage and apply their design thinking. So we'll have a 3D scanner, scan in an item, manipulate it in software, enhance it in software, and then print it out in a 3D printer, print it out in our new 5-axis CNC router. So we're creating the opportunity to create, which I think is really, really important. So we have pieces there. But what I want this new year to come to be known as is the year of research and design. So we are 50 years old. We'll put that to bed. But now we have to think, not only what do we want to be in 2035, what are we going to be in 2067? Another 50 years. Because I won't be here. But I hope that the college is still here. So what do we know about education? Well, one of the aspirational plans that came from science, I just went, oh, this is wonderful. Because they said, you know, I bet by 2035, students won't be coming and sitting in classrooms. I bet the entire building could become an interactive experience, that every lab, every space would be something that would interact with you. And I'm thinking, ooh, holograms, augmented reality. And if you go to one of the augmented reality websites, they show how this company, and the company is here in Miami, they have raised through crowdsourcing more money than any other company when they have not told us what their product is. And it's right here in Miami. And it's all about augmented reality. So in this video clip, and it's like, maybe they faked the video clip, I don't know. But it's a video clip of being in a high school gym, and they all of a sudden have this huge blue whale that appears to come out of the gym floor and splash. And the reaction of the students in the gym is to go, whoo! So you're thinking, they believe, they are interacting with this image as if they believe this is a whale and they're going to get splashed. And I'm thinking, oh, this is so cool. Could we make that the atrium of Building 3? So I want to be able to walk through the atrium of Building 3 and walk into the solar system and have Jupiter spinning around and having Mars over here. Or we change it out and now I'm part of a molecule and I'm the H in water or something, I don't know. But can you imagine if we got to education that was that interactive? That we walked into a building, and this is, I'm segueing into my vision of hubs. Imagine walking into a part of a building, and it knows that you've walked in. That technology exists. If you opt in now with like the GPS from your phone, various advertisers are able to provide you with information based on your past preferences. So can you imagine that you go into a building and it says, hi Beverly, how are you? It knows that you're taking class down the hall. You know, you walk into advisement, yes, maybe you eventually see a person, but the first thing you see is a hologram of an advisor that says, Julie, the next course in your degree audit is MGF 1107. Here are the following offerings. We're there. We don't act like we're there, but we're there. And our students are already asking for it. Our students, the younger ones, say, wait a minute, I told you by my past decisions what I like. Why do you show me the 40 sections of ENC 1102? Just show me the ones in the morning taught by the teacher that I like. And you're like, whoa. But that's how they see the world. We're not caught up to them. So this year of design is based on a few premises. And I wanted to prep you all so that you would start thinking and you would not be surprised when we get to convocation. So what does this mean, research and design? It means that we're going to become the campus that tries things. Officially, we're going to be recognized. We're sometimes known as the rogue campus. That's because they're trying to squash our creativity. We're going to be the pilot campus because that seems less sinister. You know, anything can be piloted. So we're piloting a new orientation model. Orientation used to be 74 PowerPoint slides in about 2 hours. Now, no criticism, no offense to the people who developed the PowerPoint slides. Nobody wants to sit through 74 PowerPoint slides. And if you looked in, 20 minutes in, they were sleeping or they were on their phones. So this new model is 9 to 3. And you think, oh, well, that might make it worse. Well, it really raised the bar, because then we had to think, how do we get interactivity? How do we get moving around? So now it has a campus tour. It has student orientation leaders that have been trained in leadership and engagement. There are skits. There are meta majors. They get an ID. They get a schedule. It is an experience. So we're piloting that. And the other campuses are like, well, you can't do that. I'm like, yes, we can, until we're told no. We're piloting the new math pathway, which is MGF 1107, then 1106. And I just see the lovely irony of that in math, 7 comes before 6. I just love that. I'm like, really? I can't believe that the math people can handle that, because I would think they wouldn't want to just renumber it, because 1107 shouldn't come before 1106. But curriculum-wise and pedagogically, it does. And it's to finally address that students who don't need calculus don't need an inferior level of math, they just need a different pathway of math. Because we would say things like the non-calculus track. Anytime you put non in front of it, it's the less than. And we were just saying that to someone about credit. I hate the term non-credit. So credit is what you want, and this is non-credit. It's like, do you want to drink non-milk? No. What do advertisers do? They call it A2 milk, soy milk, almond milk. They don't call it the non-milk. So we're piloting a new math. We're piloting meta majors. They said, oh, that can't be done. It is being done. And it's wonderful, because it is causing far more conversations between the academic units and the student services units. Do we have it all worked out? No, but we're engaging in the conversations. Wonderful. As you know, we changed out our committee structures. Is that working perfectly? No, but people aren't sleeping anymore. They're asking questions. We just did training. Or no, it's next week. Next week is the training for the committee chairs. As I said, we're piloting this new system of a strat plan challenge. So next year, we're going to launch the hype about being the research and design pilot campus. It can be tried here, will be our mantra. And then we're going to look at physical space. We need to move, and we won't do it in a startling way. We won't do it in a non-inclusive way. That's why it's a year of design, so that we can engage people for their feedback. But what we need to create are hubs. So this concept of meta majors, communities of interest, is based on the fact that it's better if you have synergy between like curriculum or like career objectives. So we right now don't even have departments where all the faculty are in the same place. So the master plan, and I don't know how long it will take, and I don't have any pre-designed map in my head, is to say we need to get faculty in departments in one place. Then we need to get like departments in the same proximity. We need to look at more universal labs that share multiple purposes, because that impacts room utilization. And then we need to create student gathering places near faculty, near labs. Why? Because then faculty, students, and staff will find each other. And if we create these hubs, we can then, like the concept of makerspace, be able to buy equipment, extend hours, because now it's serving multiple purposes, not one department, one department, one department, one department, this unit, that unit. And this isn't just academics. We're starting to have this conversation in student services. For us, it seems to be important to say, this is this, this is this, this is this. To students, guess what? They don't really care what you call the office. They just want someone to fix whatever they need. So when we create proximity, we can also then look at cross-training, shared purpose, because the purpose is to make the experience better for students, not more convenient for us. We need to look at indoor-outdoor space, because the literature says now that informal learning or stumble-upon learning is becoming really, really important. And that is that you walk down the hall and maybe there's a plasma screen and you learn something from it. You're in the environmental center. You're in various spaces and they teach you something through discovery. Because they're saying that this generation now is so overwhelmed with information that they don't know how to interpret or analyze it. It's just presented to them, and it's in a very direct way. And they said that the mind they can see it neurologically. The mind kind of plateaus and then kind of goes shh and shuts off. But it wakes back up when it's suddenly put in an environment and it has to kind of figure things out. So the power of informal learning. We're going to have the opportunity to bring some people here that are working on research about how furniture can create engagement. Because the majority of our labs and classrooms, just as we are here right now, is this rows. Rows are completely opposite to the idea of working in teams. And yet, most professions are leaning towards needing to work in teams, not as individuals. So when we have separate stations in everything, we are not leading our students into collaborative learning. So we need to look at what we're doing through furniture. And I say, our bones are from 1970. We're not tearing down our buildings. So the interesting challenge is how to get 2035 pedagogy in 1972 building. And when we figure out how to do that, yep, Gil's going, he hears an alarm. When we figure out how to do that, that's something we can share with others because, again, most community colleges are about our age. And so this is what the majority of educational institutions need to figure out. So we'll be looking at space, looking at bringing people together, researching everything we can research, and piloting everything that we can pilot so that when we get to 2018-19, hopefully the result of that will be a clearer plan of how to move forward. But we will have demonstrated to ourselves and to the rest of the college how to do it in a very inclusive way that really embraces change-making or that our decisions will improve and success, educational quality, and institutional agility. Questions? Questions? No questions, or you're just really freaked out by the alarm?
In preparation for SACS for the West Campus, specifically, what has SACS asked the departments to provide? Is it exams? Is it syllabi? Because, well, from my previous experience with SACS, that generally is what they ask for. They want to see exams, how they were graded, how consistent they were graded. Is that the same thing here?
So I just got my weekend of reading because I can't answer that question yet. What I do know is this is a substantive change to move what was listed as a satellite location to a full campus. So because we just went without a single siting in 2015 for full reaccreditation as a college, many of the traditional things that they worry about, such as academic integrity and things like that, were answered for the entire college system. So I believe, and I may be completely wrong until I read through everything, I believe it's to really kind of evaluate, has it built its infrastructure so that it can be self-sustaining, such as, does it have a CAS system? Can it process grade appeals? Can it register a student, package their financial aid, do their I-20 visa, graduate them, print a diploma? Can it function as a completely self-sufficient campus? I think that's really what they're concerned about. In the quality of our courses, the faculty credentialing guidelines, those are not independent at each campus. Those are college-wide. College policies are college-wide. So again, I always think of the campuses as a franchisee. So if you're a franchisee, if you're McDonald's, your branding, your policies, your product is already pre-decided. You can't open up a McDonald's and serve a Whopper. So I think it's more focused on what they find there. And there are gaps right now. In the few days that I've spent there are pieces where they have been getting the support of other campuses to be able to complete a process. Other questions? But I'll rely on your expertise, and I'll be coming back if I need specific things. Questions, concerns? No. Okay, thank you very much.